First of all, in Buddhism we have various ways to study Buddhism. That's very important to know. So we have secular or universal aspects. We have Buddhist mind science, Buddhist psychology. We have the second one, Buddhist philosophy. And we have the Buddhist practice, or the path, or the stages to enlightenment. Yeah, so that's very clear to understand. There's a threefold division within Buddhism. Two are more of a secular nature, or universal nature, can be studied by a believer or non-believer, whatsoever. But then also we have the Buddhist path, right? So the Buddhist path, you can still study it also in a secular or universal way, if you wish, right? We have the complete openness. So in the Buddhist path, we have one topic which is called Guru devotion, or relying on the virtuous friend. Yeah, so the virtuous friend is actually the literal translation of Tibetan Gyalpa Shenen. It means the teacher, right? So the virtuous friend is a very nice term. And why the virtuous friend? Because it's thanks to the teacher that we understand how to transform our mind, right? So that's an aspect in Buddhism is quite important. And also in Asian cultures, now it's degenerating, but in the early days there was always a lot of respect for the teacher. Yeah, in the West, you know, I remember when we went to high school, as particular high school, there was not that much respect for the teachers, unfortunately. Which is important because thanks to them, you get the knowledge, right? So that's, in Buddhism, being a very ancient and traditional system, it's very essential. Yeah, so it's very essential to have a kind of respect for the person who explains, and eventually to transform your mind is very important. One aspect I always find very inspiring is to see the example or the manifestation of the teachings. For example, you see His Holiness Dalai Lama, you can see there is a real form of love and kindness and compassion and wisdom right there. So they manifest these aspects of the teachings, or they embody the teachings, right? Which is very inspiring to see that. So if you see that's very inspiring, you have a kind of trust in this person, that this person actually proves to have realized the teachings. And because then we trust this person, we rely on that person for advice, or rely on that person to get more instructions, right? So that's a kind of good devotion, or relying on the virtuous friend, is based on reasoning. Yeah, we talk about faith in the teacher. Faith in the teacher is not blind faith. Yeah? Faith in the teacher, faith in the Buddha is not blind faith. It's based on reasoning. And the reasoning goes like, this person can help me to understand the Dharma. This person has realized certain aspect. This person I can trust. Yeah, so to start with a relationship with a teacher like that, it's very important to analyze. You don't rush into things like you go and buy things in the supermarket, or these days people online, they go do shopping here and there, even in Buddhism, right? So initially it's good to check things out, but if you want to go beyond the kind of universal aspects or secular aspects, and you want to go into the spiritual part, then you check the teacher. It's very important to check the teacher and take time for that. If the teacher has the qualities as been described in the Lamrim, is the teacher practicing the things he or she is teaching, right? Is the teacher really somebody you can trust or not? Yeah, and you can decide for yourself. You don't have to make directly a contact. You can just attend a lecture, like you attend a lecture, and check things out. And over time, you can build a relationship with asking questions and see how the teacher reacts. And it's a very slow process, right? It's a process you should not rush into. Then over time, if there's a connection being built, then there can be great benefits, right? So we can see that out of the various biographies that bring great benefits. Why? Because the teacher basically becomes a kind of intermediate between you and the Buddha, right? So it's kind of, we don't have the merit to see the Buddha, but we only can receive the teachings through a teacher. Just to read a book yourself or attend a teaching, there's a day and night difference, right? In the experience of understanding the material and getting a feeling with the material. So that's why a teacher plays a very important role. But it's very important to analyze well, and then over time, slowly take your time in how close relationship you want or not, or if you want a relationship at all or not. So that's a very important process. For me also, I relied on quite a few teachers in the process of beginning with the studies and progressing in the studies and finishing the studies. So also I had some obstacles sometimes. Yeah? So then you ask for advice. Yeah? So Yeah, there's various forms of advice. What I find the most beneficial advice is the long-term planning or long-term vision. Yeah, Gyanantri Rinpoche once told me that, you know, I went to see Gyanantri Rinpoche on a regular basis sometime, and then talk about, you know, that sometimes things are difficult in study program, and then Gyanantri Rinpoche always gives this very, very clear advice. He is kind of the manifestation of the system, right? So he said, look, he said, nothing is perfect, even in the system there are things that are maybe of less interest, but you do the whole program. And this tradition is since Nalanda and since the Buddha, and it seems to work because there's many very holy beings being produced, right? So you see the system, you study for two decades or so, then you put it into practice the best way you can. You do it for a few lifetimes, realizations will come. So I thought that was a very, very simple. It sounds simple, right? But a very profound advice. And then if you have this vast vision within Buddhism, you get this kind of idea that you don't have to rush and you don't have to push yourself too much. You take it easy, but you continue, right? So you make sure you make plans to this vast vision, and then you do it in a way, in a structured way that you believe the results of it, seeing these incredible beings, right? And then that gives you so much faith to come and keep going like that. So I thought it was quite a profound advice. Yeah, yeah.